and welcome to Ed's Boat, and a special welcome to all the new subscribers. Now, whilst I've been working on this boat, the weather has picked up. It has got really mild and the days have been quite sunny and quite nice, and I have been aware that in the marina especially there's a lot more activity. People are preparing their boats for the coming cruising season, and there's been a lot more traffic up and down the canal than there was when it was particularly cold. And this is a sign obviously that spring is approaching, and I need to get a shift on and get the boat finished. So in order to help me do this, I've had a couple of well-wishers donate to the project. So a big thank you to Damien, who donated some electrical conduit that he had, and a special mention to Janet, who donated a television. She actually gave me a television for the boat. I didn't ask for any of this. This is just what people have volunteered. So thank you very much. It just goes to show people do get behind you and root for you, and hope that you have a success and want to be part of it, which is much appreciated, believe me. Now, in the last episode, we took the day off really, didn't we? Had a sky, well I did anyway. Went out cruising, lost a bit of time, but it was a nice day and, well, had to be done. But it has put me behind, and in the last few days I have been trying desperately to catch up, and it's been working out particularly badly, especially as another well-wisher, a friend of mine, came over for a chat yesterday and I lost sort of 3 hours work because of that, and that's really put me behind today. But never mind, we'll try and figure out a way to make up for this another time. But I haven't been idle. I'm sorry I haven't put up a video for a couple of weeks now, but I've entered an awkward stage with the electrics and everything else, where the planning and the order in which things are done have been a real pain for me. So while I've been doing that, there's been not a lot of activity going on. Although I haven't been idle, I have been doing some work. So without further ado, let's go and have a quick look at where we are so far and recap on all the work that I've been doing in the last couple of weeks really. Okay, the first job I did was actually in the engine bay, so let's have a closer look. What I've done is, down here, I've actually put some tubing down here, and this goes all the way around the edge, all the way down there, and if I look in front of the engine, this goes, if I can get round the corner, round here, and then up the side like that, and wires come out. And this is actually 36mm drain pipe. I had a bit of drain pipe, so I just bought some fittings for the end of it. This is just stuff that came with the boat, and I thought I would use that, and I will run the wiring through it. So the wire for the engine is secured to the engine mounts, and that cable from the alternator disappears in a hole underneath the cable. That's the starter solenoid wire. I haven't shielded that yet. I've run out of shielding, but we'll probably redo all that again anyway. That's all secured down, and then at the other end, out of there, comes the cabling which goes to the positive terminal. So everything to do with the engine and starting it and charging the battery goes through this conduit. The starter lead, that big red lead there, that's the original lead that came with the boat. I will replace that, don't worry. It is probably okay, but it looks like it's had its day, so we'll change that. That coil of wire there is just a power supply up to where the bilge pump is going to be that has not been installed yet. We'll feature that on another video, and we'll try and get that up and running for you. It goes, like I say, into the conduit and round, and it's all protected, so if I kick it or nudge it or whatever, it's not going to get caught up in everything, and it keeps everything nice and tidy. So that's one of the jobs I've done. I need to mention actually about the alternator. I don't know if you can, let's get round here, you can see down here these yellow terminals. There's two of those, and they are the charge wires off the back of the alternator. Now, it's been recommended to me that I need a 16mm cable to come out the back of the alternator to go into the battery. Especially if I'm going to use split chargers and things like this for the leisure batteries. Now, that's a bit of a problem because Lucas alternators have the large spade connectors, and you cannot get a 16mm cable into the large spade connectors. They just will not go in. So what I had to do was fit two, because there are two terminals on the back of the alternator, two 8mm ones, and run that in, and that should cope with it quite nicely. Okay, let's go over to the next bit. Now that blue coil of cable is the 240-volt supply. Now this is proper marine flex, which is designed for boats and things like this, I'm told. And that is coiled around there. That is going to be one of the kitchen outlets, and that runs all the way down, which is secured every 11.5 inches just don't trip over the chair. And that runs down behind the bulkhead board there and comes out there, and there's going to be a socket there because that's going to be where the television goes. There'll be a power supply there, so there's one lead in and then one out. Behind all this is where I put that conduit that I got from Damien, and that goes up behind to a fiberglass piece which is secured in there all the way through and pops out there. Now in this cavity sort of here where my hand is, there's going to be a shelf, and that's where the inverter is going to be. But if I look at the other side bulkhead, I have drilled the holes for the outlet. That's for the 240 cable. Now if I move down to the engine bank, which is this one here, everything coming out of the engine comes out of there, and there is a gland, if you can see that in there, to protect the wiring, which will all be shielded up later. And then these two holes here are going to be the power cables for the inverter. They come off the leisure batteries, so they do nothing else but go into this cavity, which I haven't built yet, this shelf that's going to be here with the inverter on it. So that's the next job done, and when I finish lining out the size properly, we'll build that shelf. Okay, I needed to build a control box to put all the electrics in, which is quite a simple job in one respect and complicated in another respect. It all had to match up and fit in with the boat as well as just be a shelf. So I screwed in an upright which goes all the way to the roof, and that's secured nicely. Made a shelf for it here. Please ignore that wiring, that is just temporary. I'll explain that in a moment. Built this shelf inside here, and then that way I can mount a door and build a panel. And there is my electrical panel, my control panel. So we'll start off in the top left hand corner. Your key switch, your starter switch and your ignition light. That came off the old control panel, which we're going to use. I put it there because if ever you're cruising along and the engine stalls, it's the easiest thing to reach in and restart again. Move over to the switch gear. And this is an 8-gang rocker switch. This is fused, so all your fuse resets are here. And your switches on off. These little boxes here have labels that go in there, so when you designate what they do, you can put a little sticker in there to keep things nice and clear. So these are rated different fuses. So the top two are 6 amp fuses, the next two are 8 amp fuses, then 10 amp and 15 amp. So I will allocate what they do as and when I decide what needs the most power and what is safe. So I'll move down to here. I've put in 2 voltmeters. One of them's actually wired up at the moment. It's not on, but it's wired up. We'll test that in a moment if you like. And that will be for the starter battery and leisure battery, whichever way around I decide. And then on here, this is a bilge pump. And the bilge pump is going to be separate to the rest of the control panel. I'll put a little bit of tape over that because there's no fuse in at the moment, and the fuse holder will fall out without a fuse in it. So I've just put that tape on just to retain it until I decide what rating of fuse I need. So the switch here for the bilge pump, if I press it up, that will be an automatic. Middle position is off, and then you press and hold in for a manual pump out, so you can't leave it on manual by mistake. So that's just a normal off-the-shelf thing, quite common. It all fits inside this panel, which will open, and then you can get behind it. Please excuse the mess, it's not finished yet, where you can get to the back of the wiring quite easily, and all these cables will be routed round and out the way. All the earth systems will go to a bus bar, and I have numbered all the wire circuits for the 12 volt for the front. So there'll be circuit 1, 2 and 3, and that corresponds to the switch side of things, which will be 1, 2 and 3. I've just got them marked up with tape at the moment, but try and keep it all nice and clear. And it looks an absolute mess, and it's probably going to look a lot worse before it gets better. But it's a start, and it all makes sense, and I understand it, and that's the main thing. So yes, that's been taking the majority of the time, is building this control panel. But I'm quite pleased with it, and I've left a big space here to fit anything else, any extra switches. So I don't know, I might put an inverter switch in there, I might put a battery monitoring system in, I don't know. But there's space to do it if I ever want to. Okay, let's have a look at the rest of the boat. Now, I've got it wired up temporary. I've just got a small battery on there, which is what that's about, just plugged in just for testing purposes, so I can just test the circuits before I do anything. And I've got my lighting onto that switch, so you should be able to see the lights come on and off as I switch it on and off. And I've just used that switch for the moment just to put that voltmeter on, which is telling me what the battery voltage is, which which is actually a bit on the low side, isn't it? That could do with charging up. So we'll turn all those off for the time being, and we'll have a look at what we've done with the rest of the boat. In order to build that control panel in the first place, I actually had to put a plywood backing up there. I don't know if the light's gone there. You can see that's lined in with plywood. I had to do that before I could build the shelf for it. That was just the build order. That sort of held me up a bit. And then I thought, you know what, when I get a minute, I'll buy some more sheets of plywood. And I started lining out the sides. So far, I've looked down the boat, I've got plywood all the way down this far. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. We stop there. I've got one more to do that side, which is here. I haven't cut that one yet. I'm running out of time and it's getting quite late. So we'll do that another time. But by the next episode, I hope to have all that side done and this side done as well. Now, what I had to do as well was a little bit of finishing, which was on the roof. This end piece here left a small gap, which was too narrow to fit a normal piece of tongue and groove in. So that's actually half a piece of tongue and groove, which I've put in there. And that meant I had to cut lengths of tongue and groove by hand all the way down the length of the boat, which did take a little while. So little things like that have been getting in the way, but it has to be done before I can do anything else. So yeah, when I say that it's not been very good viewing, it probably hasn't been very good viewing for you, so I didn't bother filming it. But the result is there and it's not looking too bad. I'm quite pleased with it so far, and it is giving me a much cleaner, tidier and warmer feel to the boat, which is nice. Now, this moves me to my next problem. The next problem is, once I have finished all this plywood, I am down to the waistline. And I can't line that or put insulation on or do anything with it yet because I need to do some work. So I've got my bench, I've got my trestle tables and some junk, and all that has got to be moved over to that side of the boat so I can run water and gas and electric down that side, as well as a little bit of gas down that side later. But for the time being, we're going to work on just this side because that's where most of the work needs to be. So that is a big job. I'm not looking forward to it. I don't know where I'm going to put all this rubbish, but a big chunk of next week is probably going to be sorting out stuff and throwing it away. So just need to try and figure out what I'm going to do with all this, get rid of it, and then I can just get on with the work. So try and catch up a bit if I can. Okay, I'm back in the van now. It's very windy outside and it plays havoc with the microphone on my camera. But that's it for another episode, and thank you very much for watching. Now, in the next episode, what I want to do is address some of the comments and questions that you've made. Thank you very much for doing that, by the way. And also, we're going to go through what I intend to do with the boat this year, where I'm going to go on it, or what I want to do with it. Whether it's done or not, we're still going. So we need to get it in a state where it's usable but not finished, and then I'll finish it as I go along, maybe. Is that a good idea? I don't know. But I've also started drawing up my list of rites of passage, things I need to do with the boat, and we'll go over that as well. But in the meantime, take care, and I'll see you soon.